And with that, we're live. So D. Scott here, live on Amazon. And if you are watching on a channel other than Amazon, LinkedIn or YouTube, one of those, I encourage you, come on over to amazon.com/live. You'll find Jeremy and I here. And we've got the chat available, so you can ask Jeremy questions. But we are here to talk about his book, The Business Legal Life Cycle, which was written for one country's laws, has been translated, if you will, into the laws of several different countries, and we're going to look forward to talking about that. But I'm excited about this, Jeremy, because I've spent a lot of my business career working with startups. I think that if there's an opportunity for the world to emerge successfully from the pandemic, it's going to be because of entrepreneurs and those startups who are out finding solutions and are nimble and able to adapt to this changing world. But with that, welcome. Thank you for joining me here. Let's have you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell the folks here on Amazon who you are, where you are, and what is going on in your world.
Thank you, Scott. So yeah, as you said, my name's Jeremy Streten. I'm the author of The Business Legal Lifecycle, which is a book designed to help business owners to understand what they need to do from a legal point of view in their business. You may have guessed from my accent that I'm not in the States. I'm from Brisbane, Australia, which is on the east coast of Australia. The closest to the States is probably you'll get from the major cities in Australia. But yeah, so I've been a lawyer for around 20 years, and I wrote this book, The Business Legal Lifecycle, to really empower business owners to understand what they need to do in their business from a legal perspective, and to really give them the tools and the education about what they need and how they need to go about doing that. So really being practical and tricks about what it is that you need to do in your business and how to plug those gaps that we see so often in businesses from a legal perspective. And Scott, I couldn't agree more that coming out of the pandemic, entrepreneurs are going to lead the way. You know, most small businesses or most people are employed by a small business around the world, and that's only going to increase. And a lot of people are going to start their businesses, and so it's important to start that right coming into 2022.
Yeah, so it's small businesses. You know, there's shows like Shark Tank, and earlier today I was on live, and on Thursday we will have live we'll be live with Travis Perry, who was on Shark Tank and won a deal with Robert Herjavec. And programs like Shark Tank and some of these other shows outside of the U.S., Dragon's Den, have popularized startups. But in realistically, for most of human history, people had their own business. They didn't work for large organizations. And so in a way, we're really returning back to the way that it's been for most of civilized history.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think that that's a great thing because it really empowers people to do what they love and to do that in a way that makes them money, but also lets them provide for their families and also lets them employ other people and really make the world a better place by everyone working together towards common goals and towards building a great business. So I hadn't really thought about it in that sense, Scott, that around the people were in the, but I suppose as the Industrial Revolution kicked on, people did move into, working for larger companies, and that still is a big thing. There's lots of people I know that work for lots of big companies, but yeah, there's also a lot of us who want to start our own business and really do our own thing. I think that's a really good thing, and I think that the pandemic has caused lots of pain, but it's also going to create lots of opportunity, and I think that's a great thing for people to look at.
I like the way you put that it's going to create a lot of opportunity. And, one of the things that I've also been a big proponent of is people starting some sort of a side business. We might call it a side gig or a side hustle. And it's an important thing. I think we've seen that through the pandemic, when businesses need to make changes, as an employee, maybe you don't get to have a choice in that. But if you have a side gig, at least you've got something to fall back on. But also, it's a great way to just exercise your own creativity. In the US, the research says that people in the US spend about 5 hours a day on average watching television. Now, maybe that since that research came out, it's YouTube or TikTok or other media out there, but it says on the average, Americans are watching 5 hours of television. And people could say, wow, what a travesty. We're just spending all that time. But the way I look at it is that on the average, Americans have 5 hours of discretionary time every day. They just don't know what to do with it. I recommend pick up a copy of the Business Legal Life Cycle, first of all, and spend a little time reading that, and apply a couple hours a day into your own business.
I think that's great advice, Scott. I'm a big fan of the late Zig Ziglar, and I love his book, Secrets of Closing. And he talks about in that book around learning for at least 3 hours a day. And something that I've adopted over the last couple of years of making sure that I'm reading or listening to podcasts or watching things like Amazon Live or anything else so I'm learning at least 3 hours a day. And there's lots of great books out there. And thank you for the plug for the Business Legal Life Cycle. It is in my opinion, there's not other books out there that really help people to understand what they need to do in their business from a legal perspective. There's lots of great business books out there. There's lots of people who give you good motivation. There's all really good stuff, and I love reading those books. But what I saw when I first wrote the Australian version of the book was a real gap in the market where people didn't get that advice about what they need to do from a legal perspective. That's, to be honest, the fault of lawyers. We like to hoard our knowledge. We like to hoard what we do. We like to hoard, and so that we can provide the service for people. But really, what's important is to empower business owners so they can understand what they need to do. And that was a big motivation in doing the book and then starting to bring it around the world. My goal is to make legal advice accessible to all SMEs around the world. And I've started with Australia, the UK, and the US, and I plan to do a lot more because we can really help business owners to understand that what they need to do to reduce their risks. And by reducing their risks, then they're free to really strive in their business and to go forward in what they do. So it's thank you for that. As I said before, thank you for the plug and thanks for having me on here because it's great to share with what we're doing so that people can see what they need to do from a legal perspective in their business.
Mm-hmm. It's great. And I'm, of course, we're here on Amazon. The book is in the cart. I encourage everyone that's watching, click on the book. You can take a look at the inside, look at the dedication, but also look at the table of contents. That's going to give you a great view into what is going on within the book and how it can apply to you. And here's the other thing, that whether or not you have a business, you plan to start a business, or if you're an employee within a business and you have no desire maybe to start your own business. And I'll tell you, being an entrepreneur, starting your own business is not for everybody. But if you are an employee and you decide you want to stay as an employee, read the Business Legal Life Cycle and understand what's going on with the business that you're working in. And I tell you, you'll be a better employee and you'll be more secure because you have this understanding of the process and the cycle.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think that you'll actually help to empower the business that you work with to become a better business. So I think that's a great tip, Scott.
So let's go back to the beginning, because you're an attorney, and obviously there's a lot of nuances and directions that you can go as an attorney. But
Mm.
you chose business law. So let's go back and let's take that journey with you. You decide to go into law school, and you've got lots of options. What led you in this direction?
I think for me, you go to law school in Australia. It's a little bit different to America. I think in America it's a post grad degree. In Australia, you can do it straight out. And I tried a few other things. I tried a bit of IT. I tried a bit of politics, and I didn't like either of those things. And I really fell into law and really loved what I was doing when I started doing a business degree. And that was only over a couple of years. It took me a while to figure out exactly where I wanted to go. And but really, I fell in love with business law. And what I worked out as I started my journey as an attorney or a lawyer, as we call the profession over here, I really figured out that I really loved helping business owners, and I really worked out that business owners are a lot of fun to work with. The right ones anyway. The ones who wanted to learn, the ones who wanted to expand, the ones who wanted to do the right thing in their business. They really could help really build a great business, and you could do that from a legal perspective. And there's so much, Scott. You talked about nuances before. There's so many nuances in law. Yeah, it's why lawyers have a job. It's why we have a profession. Is because not everything's black and white. I think a lot of time people think law is black and white and there's right versus wrong. It's simply not the case. There are so many nuances. There's so many different things that you can do within a business to do it right and to do it wrong as well. And so, for me, it was I started to do different types of law. I wasn't required to, but the firm I worked at was a small one, but we did different things as we went through. And I really fell in love with business. And it was really falling in love with business over working there for about 8 years that gave me the impetus to go and start my own business as well. Yeah, I saw these other people doing it, and I was like, I can do this better, surely, as we all do. And I really grew in love with business, and I feel really strongly about helping business owners to do better, and I really became a student of business. So it really started from a place of I didn't know that I wanted to be a business lawyer, but I really once I got into it and I started helping people, I found it really powerful, and I found it a really wonderful way to help business owners to achieve their goals. And then I got the bug myself and started my own business.
I spent time in accounting, doing taxes, and also in banking. And so in those areas, I worked with hundreds of small businesses and business owners. And one of the things is I found is that there were some people that you could tell they just knew how to run a business. Didn't matter what the economy was doing, didn't matter what sector they were in, what their local uh, environment was. They could just really do a good job. And then I met people who I would say had no business being in business. And I would imagine that you've seen the same. And one of the things I'd
Mm.
like to talk about is, what are some of the things that you think that make a business owner successful?
Mm. I think my number one answer to that, Scott, is someone who's willing to grow. Business is like any profession, really. But I think it's really important in business that you understand that you've got to grow, that you've got to change what you're doing, and you've got to be able to learn from your mistakes and to learn better ways of doing things. There's no way in anything in life, but especially in business, that you can know everything. So my number one criteria is people who are willing to grow. Because if you don't grow, you're going backwards, as Tony Robbins likes to say. And so you
Hmm.
want to make sure that you've got that growth mindset. And that's why, reading books and, there's all manner of books, as I said before, but reading books helps you grow. It helps you to learn. And I know you've interviewed lots of great people on here as well, that the books help you to learn and help you to grow. So I think for me, that's the number one thing, is to willing to grow, to learn, not just from mistakes, but also to learn from what other people have done. And then I think also
Mhm.
you have to have a mindset of not wanting to be the technician in your business. There's a great book, E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. I'm sure you've read it. And if you haven't, definitely read it for anyone who's watching this. And it's a really good book that talks about the entrepreneur in a business, the manager in a business, and a technician. And businesses need all three. They need great technicians. But if you're a really good technician, and this is a lesson I learned
Mm.
as a lawyer, I could be a really great technician. I could be the one in there doing the work all day, every day, and which I love doing. But I couldn't also be the entrepreneur. I couldn't be the person running the business because my head was too far into the weeds of running the business. And so I think for me, the two big things are having a growth mindset and being willing to be the entrepreneur and not be the technician. And I think too, Scott, that's something that we evolve to as a business owner. That if you go the traditional path, as it were, into business, you come out of high school, you go to college, you go to university, you get a degree, you become a technician in that business. Then you think, oh, I could be a technician in that business, running my own business. But you've got to be willing to step back, and that can be a hard thing for a lot of people to do. So for me, they're the two big things that I see as important for business owners.
That's really, those are really key. And we've seen that, of course, with the pandemic, was that the businesses that were not able to change closed down, and you needed to be able to
Mm,
adapt and just see the new circumstances and not look at it as something being taken away, but look at what's the opportunity. What
mm,
problem has arisen that you are uniquely positioned to solve? And those are the
mm,
businesses that are thriving, that are continuing to grow and add new businesses. So I love that growth mindset. And
mm,
the common phrase is working on your business and not in your business,
mm,
that we see. And I think that is what you're talking about with the being a technician. And
mm.
yeah, a lot of people, they have a skill set, they enjoy it, and they see an opportunity to turn it into a business. But yeah, there is a very big difference between being that technician who does who just does the work, because you probably can't
Mm.
work enough hours to pay the bills when you are the technician in the business.
Yep. I think that's right, and I think that's something really important for people to understand. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being the technician in the business as well, but just don't expect to build a business with any sort of scale, because you end up being, you end up not having the time to do both things. So there are
Mhm.
lots of great people out there. There's lots of great, technicians, and I think of plumbers, I think of or even lawyers and accountants who do a great job at doing their work. And if that's what they want to do, then there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to go into the entrepreneurial journey. But even if
Mhm.
you don't, I agree with what you said earlier, Scott, that you still need to know how business operates. You still need to know what things happen as you go, because that's just part of the growth. That's just part of learning life and learning what you need to do in life and in the business. Because even if you are just an employee, even if you're just an employee of a company and there's 10,000 other employees, you're still in that role one of the most, one of those 10,000 most important people there that need to make sure that the business is
Yes.
operating, and what you do is still crucial to the success of the business. So even if you have no dreams or desires to operate your own business, educating yourself with books like mine and the other ones of the great authors that you've had on here will help you to be a better employee, which will make you more valuable to the business going forward. So I think it's something that a lot of people need to just realize. And if they're on, if you're on Amazon today, Amazon, the largest bookstore in the world, there's lots of
Yeah.
great things that you can do to help teach yourself. So I love it. I think it's great.
I love it. I was in the financial services industry, and when I was looking at one of the products that we had that we got commissions on, that's a lot of our income was based on commission. And I was looking at a
Mm,
particular product, and I was talking with our local area manager, and I said, in applying principles that you can learn here in the business legal life cycle, I was applying those, and I was looking at this, and I go, this product is not sustainable at the way that it's set up. And I remember the manager at the time saying, "Oh, you don't need to worry about that. The corporate head office, they know what they're doing." Well, they did know what they were doing, and they realized that product was not sustainable. And so the people that were working hard to sell it and were relying on the income from that were disappointed, because sure enough, that product went away. And fortunately, I didn't put everything into it, realizing the structure just won't work. And so there's a great example of being an employee in a company, but applying principles that you can learn in the business legal life cycle. So let's then talk about this journey. What are the different elements? And we don't want to give away the book, but we do want to give people an idea. What are some of these, when we talk about the life cycle, and you start at startup and businesses? There are some businesses that are 100 years old or more, hundreds of years old, but can actually be run as a startup as they're growing and learning and adapting to the new world. But let's talk about that journey. What is the business life cycle?
Yeah, great question, Scott. So the life cycle is 13 phases of what you need to do in the business from a legal perspective, when you need to do it and who you need to talk to. Just to go back to the development of it, I developed after really getting frustrated with law being too reactive and not being proactive. So I got sick and tired of people losing millions of dollars of their own money, of other people's money, because they hadn't taken proactive steps to protect themselves legally. And so what I did is I sat down and I developed the 13 phases based on around the 5,000 odd businesses that I'd acted for at that time, and worked out when did the people who were successful, when did they take certain steps, and when did the ones who were unsuccessful, when did they take steps, and really mapped out a journey of what a business owner needs to do and when they need to do it. And I can tell you, Scott, I did that at the time. My business partner in my law firm here in Australia, he and I worked on that together. And then I've taken that around the world to lawyers in the UK, the US, and Florida, and it maps very, very neatly with everyone else's journey. It's a very deliberate journey that we go through. So there are 13 phases. There's no real, it's not a massive secret as to what those phases are, but they go through the different stages of business, and I really divide them into 4 areas. I divide them into the startup phases. They're the first 3. The consolidation phases. So after you start up your business, make sure that you've got a business, you've got a product. In this day and age, you can start a business with a laptop, an idea, and an internet connection. You really can. Like, they're the 3 things that you need. And anyone can start a business or a side hustle, as you talked about it before. And so it's about making sure that in those first 3 phases that you get the business right. So we start with conception in phase 1. And that's really making sure that you've actually got a business, a product, and what to do to start that up, and getting the right team of advisors around you. Then we get into the startup, and that's where you might start setting up your corporate entities, your LLCs, your LLPs in the UK. We call them proprietary limited companies over here. Same thing, just with a different name. And then we get into the different parts and elements of starting up a business. But doing the conception phase is actually something that a lot of people miss. So that's why we talk about it. It's about setting your goals. It's about setting what it is, who it is that you're going to serve. And then phase 3 is the initial clients phase, where we actually get in and actually, okay, we've got a business, but let's engage our clients right. And I've talked before about when you start your business, and I get it, I've started multiple businesses. You want to get in there and you want to start the business. You want to start doing everything right, and you end up not engaging with clients properly. So those first 3 phases are all about getting the startup right, making sure that you start up the business and you do it all properly. And then we get into the next 3 phases, which are the consolidation phases, which are phases 4 to 6. And this is just making sure that, okay, we've got a business. Now, is it something that we want to build and scale? Is it something that we want to grow into a bigger business? And that's why phase 4 is bringing on employees. Phase 5 is protecting intellectual property. So once you've got a set business, then let's go and protect your intellectual property. Unless you've got a great new business idea like Amazon or Facebook or any of those other businesses, there's not a lot of merit in spending thousands and tens of thousands of dollars protecting your IP too early,
Mm-hmm.
because you might change what that is down the track. And then we get into potentially bringing in investors. So they're the first two parts of the life cycle in the first 6 phases, and that's all
Mm-hmm.
about building your business into the next 4 phases. It is, which is all about really scaling and growing your business. And so we go through what you need to do to maybe franchise business, maybe expand, and those kind of concepts. And then we get into things like estate planning, investing in property, investing in shares, and then litigation, because inevitably that's going to happen. And then really the phase 11 is where we want to get people to. We want to get people to phase 11, which is the start of the 4th part of the life cycle, which is all about business exit. I've got something to tell the followers and the listeners. At some point, you will exit your business, whether or not you want to or not. and generally, the stats around the world are when you want to exit your business, you are generally 2 years away from having everything right to exit your business. And so, the life cycle is all about getting your legal parts in place so that you're ready for sale down the track. And then that leads us into phases 11 and 12, which kind of finish off the life cycle, which are retirement and insolvency. So, I've gone through them very quickly there, but we divided into those 4 parts of when people can take different steps in their business journey.
Well, I'm just going to remind everybody that we have Jeremy here, and he's written the Business Legal Life Cycle. I have the U.S. edition highlighted there, but that's not the only country that you've written this for. Of course, you started there in Australia and wrote the book, but then realized that those 13 phases are really universal. And so now, how is it that we apply the actual legal framework for the country?
Yeah, so what I did was I actually partnered with lawyers in the UK and the US and South Africa. I haven't released yet, but I have written. A little pandemic got in the way of that one. But I partnered with the lawyers to help me to really make sure the law was right and adapt the book so that the law actually applied to each of those jurisdictions. And it is written at a high level. It's not designed for you to pick up and then you go and do all your own legal work. You still need to work with a lawyer or an attorney to get the work done. But it's deliberately written in a way that gives you the understanding of the concepts, why you need to take certain steps, and then what you need to do and who you need to go and talk to. Because it's not always, Scott, a lawyer or attorney that you need to speak to. Often, you might need to talk to a lawyer and an accountant or a business mentor or someone else. And so, it becomes a very important point for business owners to understand who they are. And as I said, those consultants are very much the same across the different countries. But the mapping was done with the assistance of locally based lawyers who helped me to really understand how the law was different, educate me on what needs to happen. I would then write the new parts, and then I would provide that to them to make sure they got the law right and that I wasn't giving any wrong advice, and then help me out to publish the book. So that was a good journey, actually. I was surprised, I have to say. I thought the law would be a lot more different in the different countries, and I've learned through this journey that really law is very similar across the world. It's just how we actually apply it, how the lawyers actually apply it, that is different in each case.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because, as you said, there's these universal principles they're following the business, and then just make the little tweaks based on the country. It's good to know that the laws aren't that significantly different, I guess, because we do have such a global economy and we are interdependent. The other thing that
so we are definitely
that I was
independent,
about,
so that becomes important.
Yeah. One of the things I was thinking about, Jeremy, too, was as you're reading this book and you say it's not really a DIY book. This is going to teach you to be an informed consumer so that you know what the outcome is that you're looking for, and then you can source the right legal, accounting, technical help, business coach, and so forth. But that really goes with one of the principles, and that is you're not going to do this on your own. So you may have your own business. You may be the sole owner of your own business, but you really do need a team. And even in the setup, this is where you're starting to not be the technician anymore.
That's right. And so, I mean, you can't do business by yourself. Anyone who thinks that they can is kidding themselves, because business is a journey, and you can't go on that journey or just by yourself. You need people to guide you. I'm a big fan of the hero's journey, the Joseph Campbell concept, and it's really the basis for a lot of the movies and the books out there. Life really is that hero's journey, and business is the same. You can't do it yourself. And even if you've got a business partner, something that I learned as someone who's got business partners in several businesses, is that it's still a lonely journey. It's still a lonely place to be. And so what you want to do is make sure that you're getting advice from people that can actually help you and have been there before. We're part of a mastermind group out of Nashville. And something that I've learned in that process, I've been part of it for a little over 3, maybe even 4 years, or going into my 4th year now. And something I've learned is the principles of business and what happens in business is universal. We have the same problems, we have the same issues, and how we deal with it is the same. And learning from other people is a great way of doing that. And so that's why in the beginning of the book, I talk about the consultants. Who are the people that you need to have in your initial team to help you do this successfully? It's not just an accountant. It can be a bookkeeper. People who are doing their own books. You shouldn't be doing their own books. You need to get someone to do that for you. Even bookkeepers should have their own bookkeeper. I go through the different people, the different consultants. Who are they? And then what they should do for you and why you need them. And it becomes a very important part of business to have those people. Because you can't just do it yourself. So it's something that I'm very passionate about. I do a bit of consulting, and I run a few masterminds myself. And it's something that I see that people need to understand, that they need to have that advice. They need to understand what different consultants bring to the table and why they need them. Because you can't do it yourself. Otherwise, it's really just that lonely journey that none of us really want.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I want to talk about the mastermind concept here too, because we, as you said, we're not going to do this by ourselves. You're going to need to bring in experts and divest from some of the tasks that we're doing, and delegate those to people where it's more appropriate, whether they're an employee or some sort of a contract person like your accountant might be. Because it reminds me of people not really valuing their time correctly. There's a brand of coffee, these coffee shops here in the Northwest, and every time they open a new location, they always, for like 1 or 2 days, they have a grand opening, and they give free coffee away, which is great because people get to know about it. They know where the location is and so forth. But I have watched people spend 2 hours waiting in line for a free cup of coffee. The coffee is like $4 or $5. So they're valuing their time at $2 or $3 an hour. I'm just thinking, get the neighbor kid to go stand in line and get the free coffee and bring it to you, and pay him a few bucks. And so this is what happens when we're not optimizing our time. That is, spending the time in where we create the value, and bringing in an attorney to do that work, to bring in an accountant to do that type of work and move our business forward. So these are the concepts. And I think that if you were to get involved in mastermind, so I've been involved in this paid mastermind for about 2.5 years, a little over that. And absolutely the best decision I made was to get involved and to get together with other like-minded business folk, where I can share the struggles and I can share the successes, and they understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And they understand because they've been there and they're in that same journey. And really, yeah, and that comes into just the importance of having that community. Not to go too deep into that, but I agree with you. It's like spending 3 hours in line to get a free coffee really isn't a good use of your time. We have a concept that we talk about over here, and again, not to go too deep into this, called the value creation score, which is basically what you're worth on an hourly basis to your business. And most people are going to be worth somewhere between $500 to $1,000 an hour. So spending a couple hours to get a free coffee is not a good use of your time in that business. So I think I couldn't agree more. And the mastermind concept, as you say, is such an important one to really get advice from someone. Some people don't like that concept. Some people don't like opening themselves up and being vulnerable to a group. But that's where you get the best rewards, and starting to realize that you can't do it all yourself. Said that before. You just can't, and you need to have other people there to be on the journey with you and to really understand what you're doing. Otherwise, it just doesn't work, and it becomes boring, and people get burnt out. There's a lot of people, I'm sure, right now taking this week off and maybe next week off to really recharge their batteries, which is great. But you need to have that community to help you to be able to thrive in your business and to thrive personally as well, because you're in business, to make money, but also to provide for yourself and or your family. And so you don't want to get burnt out. Otherwise, you lose that ability to make the money that you need.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I just want to kind of roll through the mastermind process so people understand that a mastermind it's essentially peer mentoring. So you get together on a regular basis with people that are in similar circumstances to you. Ideally, they might even there'll be individuals in there that are a little bit more advanced along the line, who can help, and people who are not as advanced as you that you can help, because my experience is the teacher always learns more than the student. So as you're mentoring someone and bringing them along in their business, you'll be enhancing your business at the same time. So the mastermind concept is peer mentoring. It's a very important thing, I think, if you really want to be successful in your business. And prior to the pandemic, there was a lot of research out there that talked about isolation and loneliness, and just the number of people that feel lonely. And when you're in a business and you're the business owner, there's often not a lot of people you can talk to that truly understand what you're going through and can offer you solid advice. And being able to find books like The Business Legal Life Cycle that Jeremy's written and is translated into different legal codes for different countries. This would be a great book for a mastermind group to go through and examine their businesses and find out, where are you at in your life cycle, in your business life cycle? What are the steps that brought you to this, and what do you need to get to the next level? And you don't want to get to that last level, which I heard was insolvency.
Yeah, so
We don't
that's
want to be there.
insolvency or winding up. No, you don't want to be there. It can be, if you're retired and you're shutting down your business, it can be a positive thing, but most of the time it's not. So yeah, I agree. And the book is written in a very practical way. I love practical books. I love reading practical books. That's why I wrote a practical book, one that really teaches you what you need to do and ask questions about what you need to do. And so yeah, I couldn't agree more that the mastermind concept does help you think through what it is that you need to do. It helps you to think through who it is that you need to speak to, and really get that education from people who've either done it before. And it's interesting you said the teacher can often learn more than the student. I hadn't thought about it like that, but that's a really good way to look at it, Scott. That you get people who are very experienced business owners, and they think, oh, well, I know everything, and these people can't actually help me. But seeing business through ignorant, I don't mean ignorant in a bad way. I mean ignorant in a positive way, but ignorant eyes, an unexperienced eyes can actually enlighten things that you may not have thought of before, or that you might have got so ingrained in the way that you do things that you might forget what it is, what other options are out there. So, we have, a wide plethora of businesses in the masterminds that I run, and I learn stuff from it every day. We've taken a 2-week break over Christmas for mine, and I genuinely said this to the people that I work with, that I get so much joy out of what I do, because I get to not only help people, but they help me, and I learn from them as well. And if you pour everything in, if you make sure that you're the one sharing what you need to do, you get a lot out of the concept of masterminds. And part of that is reading great books, and the business legal lifecycle is just one that can help you to do that.
Yeah, so we have that highlighted here, and it's available in some different formats. So it depends on what works for you. But I just want to encourage every click on the book, take a look through, look and you're certainly welcome to ask questions here. We have Jeremy available. He is coming to us from Australia here on the West Coast. It's about 1:45 in the afternoon. Jeremy, uh, what time is it for you right now?
It's quarter to 8 tomorrow. So it's we're Wednesday, the 29th of December. I can tell you the sun's risen. And yeah, it's quarter to 8 in the morning over here. And yeah, it's a beautiful day here in Brisbane. The host of the 2032 Olympics is our big thing. So we're quite excited for that over here as well. So yeah, but I enjoy this, and I enjoy the great thing about the US and Australia is the time zones do overlap quite a bit in the morning afternoon. So I think that's a good thing for us to be able to connect and talk about these concepts and what people can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's this is fabulous. I just think it's fascinating. We're able to take this love that you have for small business and startups, and then find that structure, find that applies across businesses. To me, it's really fascinating because people often in their business they say they suffer from terminal uniqueness disease, thinking that their business is like no other, when in fact it probably is just like many other businesses.
Yeah, in fact, they all are. I like to say that your business is unique. Of course, it is. You're unique, but the business of business is the same, no matter where you are, and you see that throughout the world. It's very, very similar, and that's why I wrote the book, and why when I realized that, and when I started to delve into the similarities of the laws amongst the different countries, I realized, hold on a second, I can write this for all the different countries. I'm not going to write it for every country in the world. There's like 200 countries in the world. I don't think that that's a wise use of my time. What I can do though is the concepts are still very similar, and business owners can really understand what they need to do. When you read the US book, the concepts are very similar for Canadian law. They're very similar for Indian law. They're very similar for all the different types of law, and gives that overview. And whilst the books are written for a specific country, the concept is still the same that people can learn from in their business.
Well, I encourage everyone to click on the book and add it to their cart. And whether it's for themselves, or the beautiful thing about here on Amazon, you can send it directly to somebody else, somebody that you know that is maybe been going through some struggles these last couple of years, 2020, 2021. And they're really saying, I want to take control of my business in 2022. And here's a book with practical steps, the business legal life cycle. Jeremy's written it. Those principles will apply. You can find out where your business is at, or help somebody in their business. And Jeremy, let's talk about some of the what are some of the practical steps, because I'm with you. I like the practical thing. I mean, theory is good, but what is it that we actually do?
Well, it's really around where you are in the cycle of your business, and so every chapter ends with every chapter is about a different phase. I should start that with, and it starts with what are some of the important considerations that you need to have during that phase, and what are some of the dangerous considerations that you have in that phase, and then I dive into explaining what it is that you need to do in this phase. You don't need to take every step. You don't need to go and register a trademark of your business. You don't need to do that. But I explain why you might want to do that, and then the practical step of how you often do that. And then the end of every chapter, after we explain all that, I go through and ask questions that are designed to really stimulate the mind about what it is. Okay, so I've just learned, and then how does that apply to me? And really understanding what all those nuances are that you might need to do. And so it's designed to really start asking those questions. And as you say, into the new year, 2022, who can believe it's around the corner? And this is the time to start those considerations. What is it that you need to do next year to really build the great business that you need to do? So each chapter goes through a different phase. Each chapter gives you the thinking points. What is it that you need to think about? And then explains to you what that all means, how you need to go about doing it, and then give the practical of this is what you need to do, and this is where you need to go to get that advice. So it can repetitive in that sense. And I did have a bit of a fight with my publisher over this, but I really wanted this to be a practical book. I really wanted it to be a practical book over what it is that people need to do so that they can actually go and do it. And really, it's designed as a bit of a choose your own adventure book as well, Scott, where it's designed for, okay, we're in the life cycle. And we have an online test that people can take if they go to businesslegallifecycle.com, where it actually will place you in the life cycle. So it might find you in whatever phase it is that you need to do. And that helps you to understand what you need to do from a legal perspective in your business to really shore up the business. Mm-hmm. And so the two things go together to really help you to pinpoint what it is that you need to do, and then what do you need to do in the future to really build a thriving business.
Right. Yeah. So I think order and structure is important in a business, and having a book that has an order and structure makes total sense. I love that fact. Jeremy, I've just had a lot of fun talking with you about the book here, and about these cycles and seeing how they overlay on every business. And some of those key things like not working in your business, not being the technician, but trying to be the business owner, and being willing to grow. And some of those are key things that everyone should be having. Oh, there's my dog. Hey, so but as we wind this time down, and I just remind people that the business legal life cycle is there in the carousel. Click on it, add to cart, send it to yourself, start your 2022 year off with a plan and a structure. But Jeremy, I'll give you some final words and tell people how they can get a hold of you if they would like you to speak or consult with them or do business with you.
Thanks, Scott. So, my final, real motivation for people is to really think of law in a proactive way, not a reactive way. We haven't talked about this too much. I did say it in the beginning, but one of the biggest problems that I see in business is people think, I'll just sort out those legal issues later. And they think to themselves, oh, if I just do that, I'll ask for forgiveness later and everything will be okay. That can cost you tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. And it's a real problem in business that people need to really educate themselves. And education is the key. There is so much great resources out there. Whether it's my book, there's lots of free resources on our website as well that people can see to really learn about business and what they need to do. Education is the key. The more you know, the more you understand, the more you'll be able to make great decisions in your business and be proactive and don't be reactive. So that'll be my final word, is do that, because as someone who works with business owners all over the world, that's the number one problem that I see, is people just want to be reactive, put their head in the sand, the ostrich approach, as I like to call it, and they really cause themselves so many problems that they just don't need to have. So be proactive and stop being reactive and learn. As far as getting in touch with me, if you probably the best way, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So send me a friend request. Tell me that you saw me on this show, and I'd accept a connection request from most people on LinkedIn, so that we can talk about business. I put up lots of content on there, lots of information around what we're doing and how people can help themselves in their business. There's heaps of content that people can get there. So LinkedIn's probably the best way. If you want to talk to me about speaking, I love speaking. As the world emerges from the pandemic, I hope to be able to travel again. Us in Australia haven't been able to leave the country for very many reasons for the last couple of years. So I'm looking forward to 2022 and being able to travel. So I love speaking. I love talking about this topic. I want to help people to do that. And you can, probably LinkedIn. If you search for my name, I'm the only one on LinkedIn that has that spelling of my name. So you're able to find me on there, and I'd love to connect with you and learn what you're doing as well, because there's lots of cool people out there doing lots of cool things, and I'd love to hear what people are doing.
Well, that's fabulous. Yeah. So find Jeremy on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the standard for connecting through business. It's not just if you're looking for a job. You don't need LinkedIn just for finding a job. It's a great way to get connected to those people who have the educational resources, as Jeremy said. Learning, that's going to be the key to your business. Keep ahead of everyone else. And so, Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us here on Amazon Live. And we do have the book, Business Legal Lifecycle, in the carousel. This video will be available for replay as well. So you can always get those tips and get those life cycles and figure out where you're at. But get the book. There's a link in the book. You can go to the website and learn more. So with that, Jeremy, I'll send you to the green room and say thank you for joining me, but hang out there. I'll be right back with you.
Thanks, Scott. Really enjoyable. Thanks for having me on.
All right. So we've been talking about the business legal life cycle and the phases that are universal, that translate across business. Doesn't matter what country you're in, what business you're in. Businesses are going through these cycles, through these life cycles. And it may be that you want to start a business. Maybe you own a business. Maybe you're an employee in a business and you want to be an informed and a better employee. Get a copy of the book, read it, practical tips and steps through there. And so I'm going to throw this up and just say thank everybody for joining us here on Amazon Live as we talk with Jeremy, who's authored the Business Legal Life Cycle, how to successfully navigate your way from startup to success. Everyone have a fabulous day, and let's look for the great 2020. Cheers.